Welcome to Lunch Hour Legal Marketing. This is Conrad Somm from Mockingbird, and I have had 2 employees in my smallish agency who have had webbed toes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm Guy from Attorney Sync. And I don't know, I've never met anybody with webbed toes.
I didn't think it was a thing.
I am very proud that I won my local chili cook-off here.
Recently?
I'm the defending champ. No, this was last fall, and I will be trying to retain my crown this coming fall.
Okay, so that's recently. It was
Showed
the
up on
most
my
recent
calendar.
chili
It's the most recent
cook-off.
one. Yes.
What's your secret to great chili?
Oh, I can't share that.
Oh, damn it. I like putting adobo chipotle chilies in chili, and it creates a very smoky, awesome flavor. That's my signature approach to chili. Guy, what else are we talking about today?
Today, we are talking about Summit. We are pumped to thank our video production partner, and we have an excellent conversation with Elliot Johnson and Angel Reyes.
Welcome to Lunch Hour Legal Marketing, teaching you how to promote, market, and make fat stacks for your legal practice. Here on Legal Talk Network.
Conrad, I am getting so pumped up. We are recording 15 days out from Lunch Hour Legal Marketing Summit, and we wanted to do a quick thank you to your very special friends from Bluphyre Media.
Wow.
I believe you met these guys. Did you meet these guys at Pilma?
I met them at Pilma. I can't remember. The conferences blend together. Unless you go to Lunch Hour Legal Marketing Summit. Tickets selling out soon. No, the conferences blend together. We will try and have a different conference. And one of the ways we're going to try and have a different conference, Bluphyre Media will be there doing all of our video content. But they will also be showing up as Sasquatch. We said, Guy and I have talked about this, Jessica has talked about this, we want this to be more of a performance than a dull legal marketing conference, and you're going to have Sasquatch. We're going to learn all about Bigfoot Lawyer from Bluphyre Media, but they'll be around grabbing video. We would love, if you think the conference is amazing and would like to sell your soul, we'd love you to find them at the conference and leave us a testimonial about how great we are and why this is not like every other summit.
Nice. In addition to being super grateful to our video production partners, check out this conversation that we recently had with Elliot Johnson and Angel Reyes. It is an awesome conversation.
We had an amazing converse with Elliot Johnson and Angel Reyes. I think the thing that blew me away was twofold. Number one, threefold. I have 3 big takeaways from this. Number one, they pulled out of traditional advertising a long, long time ago. So they are digital and digital only. They are dropping $50 million on digital annually. That is a massive budget. And Angel and I got into it over the value of branding and how he believes this is a direct response only world.
I don't think he said that, by the way.
He did say that. We went round and round, man. But like,
Okay.
we were talking about this, and he was like, no. I was talking about the multi-touch attribution modeling and how
I asked
they
him
touch
if I asked him, I was like, did you cut, when you say you cut all of your offline media, are you saying that you're no longer investing in brand? And he's like, no, I'm not saying that at all. I'm only investing in digital brand.
So, dear listener, please listen in on our conversation, because it did blow me away when we were talking about this. We were talking about multi-touch attribution modeling, and he's like, no, that's not how it works. No one gets in an accident and thinks, oh, I should hire these people. And he also used a number, which I think may be inflated, but maybe not, that 1/3 of the business is going through lead providers. So there is no brand, right? So, anyway, amazing
Yes.
conversation.
He did say that.
And we talk about thinking outside of the box a lot. I have a T-shirt with a think outside the box concept. These guys are doing it differently, and it's worth a listen.
Matt and David, welcome to Lunch Hour Legal Marketing. We are so grateful that you will be contributing to the summit in Nashville in August. But we want to let our community know a little bit about you in advance. So why don't you introduce yourselves and tell us what you're all about?
My name is Matt Schwartz, and next to me or below me, depending on how your orientation is on your screen, is my son David. And we formed Bluphyre Media 3 years ago, and we are a digital video content creator company and a digital video production company. And David is actually an award-winning filmmaker. He's won several awards at film festivals around the country, and he does he covers live events, he does music videos, and lately for Bluphyre, he's been doing commercials with me because we've developed something called the Bigfoot Lawyer Branding Campaign, which is a comedic approach for legal marketing with the idea that entertainment is probably the best way to be effective in order to market for attorneys. Given how saturated or super saturated the field is, we knew that people don't want to see another lawyer commercial. So we thought the best way to make our clients stand out in this crowded field is to have them be funny and give them a show to present, because that's something that people will remember, and it'll make the lawyers seem a lot more relatable and fun to a potential client. And so we've made about 15 episodes of the Bigfoot Lawyer, and he's not actually a lawyer. We just call it the Bigfoot Lawyer Campaign. But it follows Bigfoot in a variety of situations where he gets injured and needs an attorney, and these are 30-second spots or 60-second spots, depending on whether you're going to be marketing them as on vertical or if you're going to be putting them on streaming services. And we do parodies of movies, and we put Bigfoot in all kinds of funny situations. We have a great Bigfoot costume. We spent a lot of money on it because we knew it had to look realistic. So it's a theatrical grade Bigfoot costume, and it's been working out great. We've been getting great results in all the statistics that are being compiled when it's been on social media. We've got a complete watch-through rate of, and this is over 5 or 6 months, something in excess of, between 92 and 95% of our commercials are watched all the way through. Amazing. And some of that's because we grab people's attention right away with our Bigfoot character, and the rest of it is that it's just funny. And so we get a lot of people that go back and watch it again, or they'll share it with their friends. And that is the type of engagement that we were setting out to accomplish, because that's the only way you're really going to get, we think, the only way you're really going to get somebody to remember a law firm.
Love that. Thank you for sharing that. And, it hits so many of the points that Conrad and I are, regularly talking about. You hit on some of the big ones. Standing out is the number one priority. It is every major market saturated. We talk about how more money's coming in, national law firms, consolidation, private equity. The exposure to law firm advertising is going to be continuing to skyrocket. And so it's not just the reach, it's you've got to break into their attention. Otherwise, they got feed blindness to you, or banner blindness, or whatever media context you want to choose from. And so I love that campaign, super creative. And the second thing you said is, again, and this is the other thing that we always talk about, is lawyers spend so much time and money trying to market to people that are already in market, right? They spend so much money on bottom of the funnel non-brand search. They spend so much money on trying to capture demand. But people aren't, not everybody's looking for a lawyer all the time. And so finding a way to entertain them that they actually want to consume that brand media on a longer term basis, now you're starting to build that brand in their mind so that they think of the Bigfoot Lawyer when that key moment comes. And I think that's another place where this kind of campaign, super creative, entertaining, engaging, the proof is in the watch rates. We'll be sure to include some links in the show notes, but I think that's exactly the kind of stuff that we'd love to see and love to support and to learn more about at Lunch Hour Legal Marketing Summit in Nashville. So we are looking forward to seeing you there.
Excellent. We can't wait to be there. Very excited.
Now look, Lunch Hour Legal Marketing listeners, we know you would never do this, but we've got some real-life claim stories from our friends at ALPS Insurance. Today's brief, a statistic that should make you shudder.
Fun fact, over half of all malpractice claims come from one thing that really shouldn't be a thing, considering, lawyers. Getting the law wrong. So let me tell you a little story about Denise. Denise ran a busy family law practice in Phoenix, Arizona. Custody cases were her bread and butter, and she relied on rules that had worked, for years. She knew the law. She knew what she was doing. But Arizona had quietly updated its relocation statute, shifting the burden in ways that Denise just didn't catch. She advised her client using the old standard, the one she knew, and the court applied the new one. The result? Lost custody, a failed appeal, and a malpractice claim built around a single sentence. You should have known the law had changed.
Denise, you had one job. One job.
One job, Denise.
So here's the takeaway. Competency isn't static and neither is state law. If you're not checking for legislative or case law updates, that's malpractice. Learn how to avoid those missteps at alpsinsurance.com. I would love to get a feel for you guys about things that people should know, things that people should be doing that are so obvious that they're not, right? What are the key things that law firms are missing?
I have one. And, I don't think every law firm is missing this. However, every conference I go to, when I hear people talk, they always talk about the cost of acquiring a case, the CAC, cost of acquisition.
Yep.
While that's important, I think it's more important to calculate what it costs for your kept cases, because you're never going to keep all the ones you acquire. You're going to have a drop rate. We call it a drop rate, meaning that we really gave it a shot, but we can't help. And so we send the case back to the client and say, look, thanks for letting us try. We don't think there's a case here, but you're welcome to go check with another lawyer. And that calculation to me is the only one that matters. And I don't think law firms are doing it as rigorously as we do it.
So from a pure infrastructure perspective, right, you have to know where the lead's coming from. You have to know that it's qualified. You have to get to the, unqualified or qualified area. What infrastructure are you using to make that a fairly simple calculation?
Just to build on that, I data fluency. I think a lot of law firms are not giving the time and respect to making sure that their, base data is reliable and trustworthy. And to get there, you actually have to put in a lot of work and make sure that, your integrations are locked tight, that your payloads are giving all the data that you need in there, right? You need to have systems to be able to go check and ensure if there's gaps, if things need to enrich, if things need transformed. We do a lot of work here on that front end of just making sure that the data set itself is reliable, that then later down, when we say plug it into BI and other ways to evaluate and try to find trends, you name it, that we actually have trust in it. Because if your data is leaky, untrustworthy, any kind of issue in it, you're going to make poor decisions. And I don't know if people see that as well as they should, right? It's just so important. And when I talk to people, I even just talking about some of my day-to-day of just data hygiene and why it's so important, because, it'll go downstream to the decisions I make with reports and BI and then my teammates. And if I don't focus and ensure data hygiene is one of our top priorities, then to me, everyone in my organization is going to make decisions that could be poor.
No, I'm glad you mentioned data, and I've seen Angel talk about it. I actually recently was watching the Fireproof Performance interview with Mike Morse, and one of your points of view and your experiences that you share, I'm super grateful you share this. I think it's important for our folks to be talking about this in the context of brand, but talk to us about your decision to pull offline media and the role that data might have played in that decision. And then clarify something, because some people, I think, reacted to that and misunderstood what you meant, because one of the things we talk about at Lunch Hour Legal Marketing all the time is that you can build brand through digital. Lawyers think, brand means offline. It's like, no, It doesn't. You can so I'm going to shut up now and let you go.
Okay, you nailed it. Many people hear about a decision that I did make. It was, I don't know if it was radical, man. It was a decision I made, okay?
It's still radical.
Looking back, some people think, wow, that was pretty freaking, you jumped off the cliff. But let's get back to your point. And what I think is really critical is that we didn't walk away from branding. We just walked away from doing it with busboards, billboards, and legacy media. And we put it all into building a digital brand. Now, the other question you asked me was, did data play a role in the decision? And if anybody's curious about what that decision was, by the end of 2018, beginning of 2019, I had been already moving a significant portion of our marketing budget into digital. And I started really around 2011. And 2012, I brought on a guy that had Google experience. And he was doing a pretty good job. By 2014, we were able to measure it really well, like crystal. Every campaign, everything we were doing on Google. And this is so long ago. Please don't ask me to tell you exactly how this Google shit works. But I had a good guy before Elliot, who understood it a bit. And so as we were doing that, I'm like, what the money we're spending on TV? It looks like those cases are quadruple, 6 times what we spend to get a case with our paid efforts and our digital efforts. And he's like, yeah, I'm telling you, you need to get out of there. And I'm like, no, we'll see. 2019 or by end of 2018, I said, I'm all in. So we took our entire budget, moved it into just digital stuff, which included video, for crying out loud. It was YouTube. I believe the only video channel that's going to matter ever going forward is YouTube. I fuck CCTV, all of them. Fuck them all. YouTube is the only place people are going to be watching television on their phones, which is where we want to meet them. We want to meet them right there on the phone where they're at. And so we aced it, but it was all because we could measure so much better. And let me tell you, we tried to measure legacy media. We always ask the question, well, did you see, where'd you find us? Where'd you see us? And a lot of people would say, oh, I saw an ad, but that didn't mean much because we knew they had gotten to us from a digital channel. So maybe they saw an ad, we weren't sure. We kept thinking, well, maybe we're getting an overall lift. And let me tell you, when we pulled that budget completely off of legacy and moved it all digital, we literally 10x'd the number of cases we get over the last, say, 7 years. And, so right now we know our cost per kept case on, I'm going to guess, Elliot, correct me if I'm wrong, probably 50 different channels, meaning ad campaigns, acquisition sources, et cetera. It's very granular. And yeah, it takes a big tech stack to make it as granular and possibly as informative as it is for us. But, again, we're all digital, but it's a digital brand. We didn't just we don't need a brand, although I will say, in closing, that there are a number of what I call white label lead generator companies in all across America, and there are a handful that get cases for about what we get them. And that to me is a strong indication that many clients aren't going to brands. They're going to whoever gets to them first.
Sure.
They fill out a bunch of forms, they make a bunch of calls, and whoever answers or replies has a 90% shot at getting that case.
Well, let me just kind of keep you going on this, and maybe Elliot, you can answer this also. I mean, we run digital agencies. There's a reason for that. So this is a self-serving question. Is the attraction of digital a cost-effectiveness argument, or is the attraction of digital a ability to target and not boil the ocean argument? Or is there something else that I'm not thinking through?
So initially, the most important thing was the ability to accurately decide how many dollars in each of those tiny little mini channels all the way across. I'm talking every ad campaign to the keyword. I mean, they all stood on their own merits, if you will. And by being able to sort of suss that out, we were able to kind of live with the Google changes, right? We knew they were coming, and we didn't plan for them. We just dealt with them when they happened and kept after it and kept after it. And so, we're not going to get like decimated by this stuff. It just kind of happens, and it's been happening for over a decade. And so, that the attribution piece connected to the money was super, super important, because we figure if we can't accurately see where the money we spent brought a case in that we kept, we measure that about 3 months ago, backing up to month 15, because in the first 90 days is when we kind of drop cases. And then we calculate, what did it cost to keep that case? Because we dropped 30% of our cases.
Right.
So you have to redo the math after you punt all those cases. And so, I mean, I've had a theory since 2012 that the only reason we are still in business is because of this. Distracted drivers cause, I don't know, 60% of all crashes. We know that it's like 95% of the cases that we end up representing a car wreck victim on come to us from a mobile phone. We know, we have all that data. I mean, that's what's so important, is that with the data, and we pump it all through Salesforce, and then we got Power BI and some other pieces of the tech stack. Super critical. Very, very, very important.
To make it simple, I think attribution's really critical to Angel. And then me as a media buyer and head of our marketing department, that's a huge responsibility to have a 50 million plus budget on my shoulders. So when it comes down to it, of course, we're going to focus a lot of that money on last click attribution, pouncing on paid search. And there we can all feel really good that we have a significant amount of our budget being spent where people are searching and need an attorney, right? Like we can all sleep at night that our dollars are being well spent getting clients that are doing non-brand searches and picking us. I think the responsibility, and what I love about digital when I'm going upstream is, like, for instance, in Google Ads, being able to see other little micro conversions. Maybe it's time on our website. Maybe it's a phone call. Maybe it's certain activity and engagement, on our website or Google properties as well. Like little things that can say, okay, I think I'm spending my, brand building and, paid search driving dollars better than, say, we were spraying and praying with 20 billboards across Dallas, Fort Worth.
How do you guys handle, you talked about last click attribution, that tends to work extremely well on a direct response kind of advertising perspective. Brand is multiple touches over years even. Mm-hmm. How do you handle kind of the multi-touch attribution modeling when and I think the agency world has been very simplistically focused around last click. When you're talking about brand, it really is an omni-channel, multi-touch, multi-year campaign. How do you model that?
I think the simplest way that we've done a couple of different things over the last 2 years. We have employed some MTA tools to try to give us a sense of some of those other assisting converting channels to where it can help us make our media choices where we're going to put dollars. We've had mixed results of some of those MTA tools, and every now and then we get a really good insight. So for instance, we were doing some programmatic over the trade desk, and we were just not seeing any kind of assists anywhere that was meaningful to me. So we had an MTA tool too that pointed to YouTube. We were seeing consistently, almost every other day, that somebody would search or somebody would engage with one of our YouTube ads. A few days later would actually search non-brand, and then they would select us and become a client. So we found some nuggets in MTA tools, but I would say right now we still don't have that piece in our tech stack that I feel really great about. That I think we're still in search of an MTA tool and even a MMM tool to help us make better decisions, because I think, as you guys know, that middle is so messy. That way a customer can come to us, a client can come to us, is very, very messy, hard to know which channel really moved that person, infected that person more than others. Yeah. We try not to put too much on last click. It's a great signal, but it's not our number one. That's all that matters. I'm consistently and still, even currently, looking for some new tech that we can help us make some better decisions when it comes to some of that, multi-touch attribution.
Right. Well, I think that's such an important thing in terms of like coming back full circle, this idea of data. And I think this is where, and you guys are obviously like bleeding edge sophisticated compared to a lot of the firms we talk about, but there are some out there that are, they're at least trying to move in that direction. But I think one of the things that's missed, and I'd be so curious to get your thoughts on this, and we, obviously you guys are all in on digital, which lends itself to a lot of trackability, and we talked some about the attribution issues and whatnot, but how do you make decisions? So you've got this, let's just start at the top. First, you've got like a growth goal that you're trying to achieve, maybe, or maybe you don't, and you could respond to that. Like, how do you determine your growth goals, like year over year, 3 years, or whatever that trajectory looks like, and then putting a budget behind that, making decisions of like how much money should we actually be spending to achieve that objective, and then where do we deploy the resources? Not maybe you went deep on some of the granular stuff, but like big picture, how do you decide like, hey, we're going to shift more resources into brand building, or we're going to shift more resources into direct response? Is it based on an internal like target per kept case cost? Or anyway, I'm really curious kind of your framework for thinking about how you make those decisions.
Okay. Well, I would say on the goal setting, sometimes it's based on data. Sometimes it's Jim and Angel, and they just pull a number straight out of their ass. That I feel like sometimes.
That's the most common way they folks do it, by the way.
But usually I could maybe not talk them down, but we can go revisit the numbers, look at our growth goals year by year. Like this year we did, we approached it a different way where instead of just this every month we're going to go up, we worked together with Jim and Angel and looked at historical crash data in Texas and looked at the volume and demand month per month. We looked at what our performance was a year ago, and then we start modeling this out. So every month I finally convinced Angel and Jim we could have a month where our goals go down, but it's based on data, right? Yeah. So we've gotten, I think, a lot more strategic and smart about our goals month to month. And then that allows us a lot of flexibility on the budgeting month for month to not just be every month I am searching for some dial to go up, because I just have these ever increasing channels. And it can be really tough to have a huge goal in a month like January in Texas, where the volume of wrecks is at its lowest. So instead of us just putting just being super inefficient, we're getting a lot smarter, I think, about our media spend month to month and then as a year goes by. And then when it comes to decisions on where we spend, it kind of goes bottom up. Obviously, if say a January and I look at our media and I work with our media director to see kind of what our ceiling is in paid search, for instance, and just kind of see where that is, kind of start there at my planning. Like if I got 800,000 I'm budgeting to spend this entire month in media, and my paid search person says, hey, I think we got about 800,000 that we can spend efficiently for our CPA, for our ROI, I wouldn't spend a dime anywhere else. And that's the route we'll go. But we have some really big targets, so we keep moving up our funnel. We're like, okay, we're going to do some, we can add more into lead gen. We know that's, a good ROI for us. And then after that, anything else after that is me being able to invest more in that upper funnel. So I think in a big picture, that's kind of how it cascades down into month to month decisions on where we're putting money. And the overall objective is always, how do we maximize the number of cases?
From my chair, I am happy to spend with really no ceiling, as long as our cost per kept case stays under 2,500. I feel like we can really help all the people that we can acquire for kind of that amount of money. This is post drop rates and stuff. So, at some point, if the flywheel really clicked, I'm not sure there's an upper bound, because our budget is a pro forma budget. But if we found, if all of a sudden in 1 month, we saw the actual acquisition cost drop low enough that even 50% of those cases dying on the vine would still be cost effective, we're gonna try to help every one of those clients. We're gonna keep spending. So,
yeah, that's a great spot for me to have that flexibility. That if we see opportunities, we can crank the dial and run. But we also, I try to instill in our entire team that discipline that we're not it has to be the right opportunity. It has to go through the right approvals, and we'll do that. But we're not just trying to get as many cases as possible and throw caution to the wind and be inefficient. And I have to go talk to Jim and Angel and say, yay, we got a lot of cases, but that cost per kept case was not in your ideal range. Like, we stay very disciplined, that we make decisions to put money in places that can achieve the goals at the financial, benchmarks and milestone, benchmarks that we need.
You talked about Salesforce. Are you able to use Salesforce to run multi-touch attribution? So like, that this person has been on the site, or they've gotten the newsletter, or they've been exposed to something on TikTok or whatever it might be. Are you able to capture some of that within the Salesforce environment?
Not currently. We've explored, I believe their product marketing cloud. We explored that a couple years ago, but again, we're still kind of seeking an MTA kind of tool that can help us stitch some of those together and make decisions. But it wasn't the right data sets to be able to stitch, I guess.
It's certainly one of those things where like the typical CRMs that have serviced the legal industry are underbuilt to do that. Salesforce and HubSpot have, like, that's where it's extensible, right? That's where you get an advantage, because Salesforce and HubSpot, like, they're the two, they can actually start picking that stuff up. So I was wondering if that, and we don't talk to many people who work with Salesforce directly, right? And so there's a big advantage in having Salesforce directly, although it's a pain in the butt to work with.
I've worked B2B too, and, in this world, we've seen a lot that, just digging into the data from like incident date to when they search and when they hire is like a 5-day span on average, right? So then it's a lot of critical thought of how important it is to invest into a marketing cloud product that's going to cost so much money to be able to see some of those touch points when really that window is so hyper short,
Right.
It can be condensed. It's actually, most people that want help get it within 2 days of being in an accident.
I'm more thinking of like, it's that right? It's, I'm hitting on the brand, I'm hitting on the brand. I've done that for 6 years.
Yeah.
I don't think people do that, man. I mean, I'm not trying to be contrarian, but
no.
I don't think people ever look for lawyers until they fucking need
them. No, you're right. You're 100%, sorry, you're 100% correct on that. My point, though, is the vast majority of people, and you watch the way people actually look for lawyers, they will look for, I love this phrase, they will look for the first lawyer that's, the first thing that's not an ad that I recognize. And they only recognize the stuff because of the brand awareness advertising that law firms are doing. That's the piece that I'd love to be able to capture.
How do you respond to the position that about 1/3 of every car wreck in Texas, the client ends up reaching out to a white label lead generator, and that somebody else ends up with that case? Not a brand, not the big brand,
100%.
at all. 1/3 of the entire car wreck world in Texas is mopped up by white label lead generators. And
That's
so right. I beg to differ. I don't think people are looking for what they, I think what's more important is speed to lead. I think people are looking for someone to get back to them as fast as possible. And the faster you are, the more likely you're going to get the case. I think they're brand agnostic. It's kind of like going into a supermarket and you're like, I need some cereal, right? So you get to the cereal aisle and you recognize 20 names, but hey, let's try the ones with like 100 nutrients today. I mean, literally, I don't think people are as thoughtful about this decision as other lawyers think. And I'm contrarian on that, obviously.
You ever catch lead generators bidding on your name?
They do it all the time. I invented it in 2012 and got sued in 2014, won at the Fifth Circuit in 2018, and then watched my good friend Glenn Lerner learn the hard way. He was the plaintiff in the case in the Ninth Circuit, and he got slapped down too. It's common practice across almost all industry verticals in the Google world. You can't put their name in your text, but you can keyword bid on trademarks, sure, competitors, etc. You can't lie to them. You can't say, oh yeah, this is, whatever. But, it happens all the time. And frankly, I'm still open to working with lead generators so long as they can deliver cases or super close to what our internal efforts can do. So
Yeah, no, and I know
I'm
you've
not
been
a hater. Somebody's
No,
going
I know you've been a leader on the conquesting strategy, and the reason I brought it up because I thought it was an interesting point is that that 1/3 that's going to lead generators, are the lead generators generating because of non-brand, or are they drafting off of law firms' names? Because obviously, there would be some overlap there. But
you're right. I'll give you some experience. 10 years ago, I'd say, yeah, absolutely. There was definitely some of that. Lead gens, they were on that edge, if you will. We weren't, because if we did and we ended up with a call, we would just say, look, we do car wrecks, we can help. And a lot of people said, great. They weren't. They might have clicked an ad for one of our competitors, but they weren't dying to talk to that person. In fact, I think they didn't care. But when they did talk to somebody and they felt like they were comfortable, you're off to the races. It is not a big part of what we do. And I don't think it's a big part of what lead generators do either. There's so many more form fills now. Oh my gosh. I think clients will do 6 to 10 form fills because it takes seconds. And then whoever gets back first, if they like the tone of voice, they will continue to consider whoever that might be without really thinking, oh, I need a brand. Oh, I should do this. No, man. I mean, we're giving them a free car. Are you going to freaking insist on, I don't know, I want a Mercedes? No, nobody cares.
Wait until their AI starts filling out the forms.
I can't wait.
Hey, Conrad, I was going to back to your previous topic. It's something that we're really looking at and still kind of early stages designing it, even though we're already investing in more remarketing. But, we as a company are getting bigger, wanting to scale. We're investing in data warehousing. So we have Azure up. We're using it for some really interesting ways with auto dialing in our intake system in Zoom, which is really cool. We're tapping into it with Claude for reporting and stitching together, CRM data with our ads data. It's a whole new frontier for our organization. So it's really exciting. But to your point, stitching together those touch points and how it's helping our business, I definitely would be interested in ways that we can leverage some of this technology, because we're investing a lot more in, not just having our client maximizing their experience with us and then just saying goodbye. We want to continue that relationship with great content, touch points. We're really trying to flesh that out, and it would be really interesting for me to, like you're saying, like in a few years to be able to go look at all these different touch points that got that person to refer two of their friends and their uncle. Like that one turned into 4 cases. This person turned into 7 cases. Like being able to leverage all the stuff that we're doing, all those clicks, all those interactions, all that, I think that would be really interesting and maybe a way that we could use it in what you were talking about.
I deeply believe that we're going to move to, it's not even my word. I got it from the CallRail people, but like this concept of touch points as a fuzzy but bigger attribution model, like that, I believe that's where we have moved. We just don't know it yet.
Yeah.
And in the next 2 years, we're going to figure that out.
No disagreement. No disagreement at all. I mean, I think Elliot undersold our ability to see a customer journey. So long as it's digital, we do have visibility.
Yeah.
I think admittedly, it's fuzzy, right? I think you guys even agree. Like, hey, it's not as clear as it could be.
It will only ever be fuzzy because it's modeling human behavior, and human behavior you can't model mathematically. Otherwise, we would all be very boring people, right?
Well, and the thing is certain journeys are less fuzzy than others.
I don't know. There's another another way of looking at it. I mean, if you can do math, you're probably a little smarter than the person.
Yeah, right. But we're emotive beings, and so like we don't make rational choices.
Is that what you're saying? We're not all whatever. Was he Lieutenant Spock? I'm not really sure. Maybe he was like a fucking 2-star general, and William Shatner was the general. I can't remember. I'm dating myself. Star Trek. There's probably fans of Star Trek still.
I'm a Next Generation guy.
I never was. But I was the original. I was a teenager when that shit was going on. So it's pretty funny.
Right.
We're at the top of the half hour here. We're so grateful for your time. Final thoughts. The other thing I kind of want to get both of your perceptions on big picture macro factors going on in the PI space. There's private equity money coming in. There's MSOs. Angel, I know you recently posted about this on LinkedIn. There's consolidations of law firms. There's national law firms.
Yes.
Talk to us about your view of where we're headed in the PI space.
Sure. So look, private equity, it's not a rumor. They're here. Probably 20 transactions have closed. And you know, what that means is that, you know, firms have sold mostly majority interest, but a few minority interest via an MSO strategy. Our firm has operated since 2024 as an MSO. We don't have any outside investors or partners, but we figured, you know, let's be in a position where we're kind of like shelf ready to the extent that someone comes in with the right, you know, the right partnership is impossible to divine up front. You know, people wouldn't get divorced half the time if that was so freaking easy to do, right? On the other hand, you know, yeah, at some point, if we wanted to say yes to the dress, we've had people, you know, share some dresses with us. And so we figured, why not just start operating that way and see how it goes? It is not super complicated, but it does take time. And so, you know, some of these firms that have transacted are now going to have to go through the how do we now strip out the lawyers from the back office?
Right.
And we've already done it. So we kind of have a little experience. We do it through a master service agreement, MSA, and colloquially called in the private equity space. But it's coming. It's here. It'll be a lot like doctors, dentists, veterinarians. There'll be plenty of, you know, folks who don't join a big roll-up platform. But there'll be enough that do, that it'll be meaningful. It'll make a difference. You know, time will tell whether it will be, you know, uber efficient for clients. It is important to not forget that, you know, you're representing clients, and, you know, doctors have like quotas, man. You got to see 60 a day or you're out of here, right? When a private equity group owns them, we can't really do that with our clients, right? I mean, yeah, you just got to take every call, but you can't just hustle it through. We file most of our cases. Courts are in control of the calendar, the schedule, et cetera. So, you know, we can't just kind of whip through. But, you know, it's something that we're open to discussing further with some of the folks that I've been in touch with for the last couple of years. And it's already here. So, you know, like it or lump it.
Yeah, and I guess I would just summarize: Angel's handling the MSO PE strategy, and then I just need to handle the accountability and financial discipline of my organization. So we've talked about that throughout this episode and just how important it is, and we just continue to step it up this last year and a half, just to continue to ensure that we have our numbers. They are our numbers. They are truthful numbers, and making sure not just myself, but my team's accountable for them. And then maybe a third aspect of it all is kind of readying our organization for, you know, different eyes, and being able to, you know, showcase them exactly how our systems work. What are our methodologies? What are our principles, our SOPs? We have it all documented into a Notion database. And then being ready to possibly, if say we expanded, we needed to add another firm, more offices, another market altogether, just readying my organization for that possibility. And I think just doing all those things I just said puts us in the best, you know, state to be able to be ready for that type of scale and growth.
Have you noticed an impact on cost per kept case from a lot of the money coming in yet, or not really?
I'll take this one. Here's what I've noticed. I did my first television ad in 1994. I spent $25,000 on Univision, which is a Spanish language channel. And I think we ended up getting, we kept like a couple hundred. And it ended up being a couple $100 for a kept case. Well, those days are done. And whether or not private equity money comes rolling in or not isn't going to change the fact that cases get more expensive, period. They're going to continue to get more expensive. So what can we do? One, we can, keep our eye on our ROI, but also we can do more for our clients. And more means being capable and willing to spend the money to litigate and to litigate with expert witnesses, to get life care plans, to do all the things that we do. And we do this across, we file, I think this year we're supposed to file thousands of lawsuits. I swore to Elliot I wouldn't freaking use the number. Thousands of lawsuits are going to be filed by our firm this year, and almost all of them will get that treatment. So we think that we can create more value for our clients by being willing to kind of go to the mats. And then, we by paying attention, you can make a difference. And so, our processes are designed to help lawyers do that, because we have it's about 14 to 1, I think, is the actual staff lawyer ratio. And with all that staff, you should be able to focus as a lawyer on stuff that does require you to be a lawyer. We basically try our darndest to get rid of all admin tasks so that lawyers don't have to mess with it. Are we perfect? No. Are we going to keep working on it? Absolutely. If any lawyer that works here is like, wow, I don't do many ticky-tack bullshit, admin stuff. They don't. And some of them, I don't know, maybe disagree, but we don't have them all on here right now. And if we did, they'd all say, "Oh, it's great, I love it." So anyway.
Thank you guys so much. Looking forward to have you at the summit.